Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Macroeconomics YouTube channel. My name is Godwin, as you probably already know, except you are a new viewer, and if that's the case, I say congratulations on stumbling upon this YouTube channel on this particular day, irrespective of whatever means you use to stumble upon this particular YouTube channel. So we've been talking about research writing as a course for some time, and our last class we discussed background to the study. So that was chapter 2. So in this particular video we're talking about chapter 3, which is your literature review. Now recall, for those that have been following, that I said the manner in which a project is written differs from school to school, and it also differs from department to department, and within the same department the manner of writing a research might also vary via supervisor to supervisor. So if a particular supervisor may say, I want just 5 chapters, whatever it is you want to do in 5 chapters, it should be okay. Another supervisor may say, I want 6 chapters. Another supervisor may say, I want 4 chapters. So it should be between 4 and 6, depending on whatever it is that you're writing on. Okay, so I've been giving you guys a format to follow, and based on that format, this is gonna be our literature review falls in chapter 3. So what is literature review about? Now, when you say literature, I've explained it in one of our classes before, that is just talking about studies, really, about studies, the body of work, the body of, let me say, academic work that is, available on a particular topic or subject matter or what have you. Okay, so and when you're talking about literature, it includes journals, includes books, right, all of those academic things, in one way or the other. All right. So what is literature review about? Literature review is about the reporting of important aspects of existing journals on a subject matter, or that are related, or on about existing journals that are kind of related to a subject matter, your matter of interest. Okay, so literature review is divided into 3 to 4 parts. It depends. Okay, now why I say depends is I'm going to explain it. In your literature review, the sub categories that you have includes your conceptual review, that's the review of concepts, okay, that are relevant to your subject matter or your research topic. You also have your theoretical review, which is something that I really want to stress on in this video. Then we also have empirical review, talking about the empirics, talking about the findings of other related studies. And we also have the methodological review, which is talking about the estimation techniques, that's reporting the estimation techniques that other researchers have used, around your subject matter. Okay, so now going into them individually. So in this particular video, I will be talking about the conceptual review and the theoretical review. There will be a follow-up video where I'm going to talk briefly about, I don't know, so don't let me say briefly, where I'm going to talk about empirical review, methodological review, and a literature table. Okay, so you might be interested in that. Now, in our conceptual review, it's just talking about you writing on what other studies have said about important concepts in your research topic. Now, we've been using a particular example, which is the impact of inflation on economic growth in Nigeria, or maybe the impact of inflation on Nigeria's economic growth, whatever way I must have put it. But we are really looking at how inflation affects Nigeria's economic growth. So that's the basic thing. Now, in the conceptual review, so what are these I'm going to look at that we're supposed to look at? Now, we are supposed to talk about inflation as a concept. We are supposed to talk about economic growth as a concept. And what other things falls under inflation and economic growth? For inflation, talk about CPI as a concept. What have other studies said about the CPI? Alright, what have other studies said about the GDP deflator? What have other studies said about GDP as a measure of economic growth? And if there are other measures of economic growth, what have other studies that you've reviewed, what have they said about all of those measures? Now you might be wondering that, wait, haven't we done something like this before? Haven't I mentioned something like this before? And that's right, I mentioned something like this in section 2.1 and 2.4 under background of the study. That was in chapter 2. You see, so based on your lecturer, now your lecturer might feel, okay, you've already talked about this concept in your background to the study, that's your section 2.20. You can go back to that video, and if you have your notes, can just flip So where you wrote it and check it. So under 2.1, I think I spoke about inflation and whatever similar concept that it has. Then under 2.4, I think I was talking about economic growth and other and measures of economic growth. So your supervisor might, okay, it's what you're writing on is kind of the same thing. Okay, so why not remove section 2.1 and 2.4 from your background to the study and make them the conceptual review in chapter 3? So that means you would no longer have these concepts in your background to the study, and your supervisor might then suggest other things that you can include in your background to the study to make your work voluminous in a relevant way. Okay, not just you adding stuff that will just add to the number of pages and they are not so important, you understand, or maybe just making your work verbose and it's not really saying something unique. Do you understand? Now, for example, I think I mentioned in one of our classes that my final year project was based on banking, I think customer relationship management in the Nigerian banking industry, kind of. Yeah, I'm not very sure again. So with First Bank as a case study. Okay, so in my background to the study, for example, if you look at the topic, I am actually supposed to devote a section to the history of Nigeria's banking sector. Okay, then so that's going to form a part of my background to the study, maybe 2.1, 2.2, whatever. And I start to talk about important things that happen in Nigeria's banking industry. I think with the consolidation era, I think so, where Nigeria had a lot of banks before and they were just brought they were consolidated into I think 24 or thereabouts. All right, and important aspect like that. So that's the same thing that you're going to do in your background to the study. So as you're reading your journals, and sometimes it might just be an idea, one of your ideas, and you might feel that, okay, why not talk about this? Okay, in my background to the study. And sometimes it might be the suggestion of your supervisor. So that's why I used to say that as a researcher, as a project writer, you should be close to your supervisor. So you shouldn't be working in isolation, right? So that's why your supervisor is there to guide you, not to write the project for you, but to guide you. Okay. So that's that about that. And for example, the other way around could be that your supervisor asks you that, okay, I don't want conceptual review in your chapter 3. So just limit your review to theoretical review, empirical review, and the methodological review. So whatever it is that you're putting in your conceptual review, since you've already had them in your background to the study, just leave them there. Alright, so in this section, I'm just okay with the other 3 reviews that you're supposed to do, and you're done. So that's that about that. Alright, and the next one is the theoretical review that I said I would like to spend a lot of time on. Now, something that I've observed, which was likely one of the mistakes I did when I was writing my final project, was not really understanding the kind of theory I'm supposed to review. Okay, now when you're reviewing a theory for your research work, there are things you must note, and I think I've written some of, not even this yet. Okay, one, your theory should be between 3 to 5, or let me say 4 to 5, right? So you must, and when you are reviewing these theories, you must be able to say quite a lot about them, not lots like that, and not something so small. Like you must be able to discuss them. You must be able to say some things, some really important things, about the theory. Okay, that's one. Then 2, here is where books and internet may come handy. Okay, I've been telling you before that journals should be your primary source of information as a researcher. But when you come to theories, some journals may not really talk about deep things about theories, so they may just describe a theory, tell you who made up the theory, and you might not know the assumptions of the theory. You might not know the limitations of the theory, and so on and so forth. But when you are reviewing these theories, these are things, or some of the things that you have to include, or I think you should include. Okay, and that is where books and the internet may come in handy. Okay, you might be able to find information regarding a particular theory from a book, which is not from a journal now. So, and that's really cool. And sometimes it might just be from the internet. It's okay. Now, when you are doing your research, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be able to write stuff from the internet. Okay, I'm just telling you that it should be very limited. You should have legitimate academic sources, okay, occupying a significant aspect of your work than all of these blogs and Wikipedia. Lecturers don't like Wikipedia, supervisors don't like Wikipedia, and the reason is that even you can go on Wikipedia and write something there and move something that is not really verified and may not be true. That's why they don't really like Wikipedia, and for whatever reason that they have, Okay, and another thing is you have to review relevant theories related to your topic. And the fourth one is one of the theories will be used. So you have to understand something, that one of the theories that you are going to be reviewing in this section will be used throughout the remaining part of your project. So, and because of that, you should understand that you don't just you know just pack theories from one place or the other and just dump them and then leave. So if you do that and it gets approved, the supervisor asks you to continue, you are going to be stuck in chapter 4. You'll be stuck because you have to build your model in chapter 4 in line with your theory, number one, and you also have to build your model in chapter 4 in line with your objectives, your research objectives, or your research aim. When we talk about chapter 4, so I'm going to explain those things more with an example. Okay, and I said here that you review relevant theories. So this is, like I said, this is the aspect I really want to talk about. And when I say you review relevant theories, now I want to give an example here. So here you have impact of inflation on economic growth in Nigeria. Impact of inflation on economic growth in Nigeria. What is the independent variable? The independent variable here should be, I think, economic growth, right? No, that's wrong. Okay, should be inflation. So this is your independent variable. Inflation and economic growth is your dependent variable. Okay, so whenever you are talking about a theory, so it's gonna be your dependent variable being a function of your independent variables. So in this particular theory, you'll be having economic growth as a function of inflation. Alright, so whatever theory that you are reviewing has to be theories where economic growth is determined by some factors. Alright, and those factors are what you call your independent variables. So here, because economic growth is a dependent variable, it is what you are trying to look for. So the theories that you are supposed to review here are not theories of inflation, they are theories of economic growth, like economic growth theories. Those are things that you are supposed to review. So you start to review theories of how inflation is determined. It's not relevant to your work, it's useless. Okay, what your work is about is economic growth, really, right? So your theory should be about economic growth. So your supervisor is looking for economic growth theories, or just growth theories in your research. All right, so you might come across a lot of theories from the journals that you've read, because I think, like I said some time ago, that there are categories of journals. There are some that are very important to your work, okay, because they are directly related to your work. There are some that are not that important, and there are some that they are not important, but there are still one or two things that you can take from them. Maybe you can take one from the concept, or you can read through the introduction and have an idea of how your introduction should be. But beyond that, there's probably nothing more to take from those journals. All right. So in those, if you are going through those journals in full, you are likely going to come across different theories. Okay, but you're not just supposed to be picking theories anyhow. So the way to pick theory is, what is your dependent variable? So your dependent variable will give you an idea of the theories that you're supposed to review. Now let me give you an example. Let's say Apple. You are trying to look at the impact of prices on the demand for Apple iPhones. The impact of prices on the demand for Apple iPhones. Now, what is the independent variable there? It is price. Okay, because you already have prices. We are trying to evaluate the impact of those prices, all right, on the demand. So demand is what is of what you are trying to really look out for. So then you'll be having demand for you can call it apples, okay, being function of the price of demand for iPhones being a function of price of iPhones. You then look at this. Okay, this is what I'm supposed to have. So is there a theory that I can use to check something like this? And you have a theory, which is your demand theory. Okay, one of the most basic theories that you are going to ever come across if you're an economics student. Everywhere, some people don't even know anything about the theory of demand, but they must have heard it over and over from different people, different classes, beforehand. So that's just what you're supposed to use here. Now, what does the theory say? The theory says that an increase in price will lower the quantity demanded, and vice versa, other things equal, blah blah blah. I hope I stated it right though. So remembering that theory, that the theory is QD is a function of price. Okay, Commodity demand. Okay, now demand. All right, fine. Function of price. Function of price. Very good. So the theory I'm supposed to review here is the theory of demand. So I then look at the journals that talk about theories of demand. What did they say about the theories of demand? Okay, so that's how to do it. So the same thing here. The theories of economic growth. Those are things I'm looking for, not the theories of inflation. Okay, I'm going to. There was a project work that I was sent some time ago to work on, and I'll tell you why I didn't take that work. Okay, I'm going to tell you why. Now the topic of the work was have I spoken about this? Okay, no, not yet. Topic of the work. What is it? Let me look for it. The effect of fiscal policy on Nigerian economy. The effects of fiscal policy on Nigeria's economy. Okay. Now I'm looking at this. What are you really looking for in this particular project? Is it the fiscal policy or Nigeria's economy? Alright, so if you look at it, you already have the fiscal policy. So you're trying to look at, okay, how does this fiscal policy affect Nigeria's economy? So fiscal policy here is the independent variable. Alright, Nigeria's economy is the what? Dependent variable. And when you have something like this, usually you're talking about growth because you're looking at it. How does fiscal policy improve Nigeria's economy? That is, how does it make the Nigerian economy grow? Okay, or is there a way that the fiscal policy existing in Nigeria is making the economy to retrogress? That is it reducing the country's growth, or making the country or eliminating growth and taking the country backward? So essentially, you're talking about growth. Okay, which I can call growth, economic growth, being a function of fiscal policy. Something like this. But I'm just writing this to give you an idea, not that this is how you should be writing your theories or whatever, but I'm just writing this to give you an idea. Now, if you've ever been a public finance student, or from your macroeconomic classes, fiscal policy is really about how a country uses its government spending policies and its tax policies to impact the economy, okay, in a particular direction. Maybe to control this, to control that, to promote this, to promote that. So fiscal policy is really about government expenditure and government and taxes. Alright, and taxes. So you have economic growth, maybe you can further simplify into government spending. I could call it G spend, and tax T. Okay, where G spend is government expenditure, and T represents taxes. E represents economic growth. Okay, so here you are supposed to review growth theories. Alright, not fiscal policy theories. No, you are not supposed to be looking for the determinants of fiscal policy. Here you are supposed to be looking at the determinants of economic growth based on the topic. Okay, and there's one more thing that I want to say before I move on, which is, since the topic is saying the effect of fiscal policy on Nigeria's economy, like what aspect of Nigeria's economy? Under finding a topic, I think I explained something like that. So other studies that you've gone through may have used economic growth to denote to represent Nigeria's economy, because what you are really looking at is how has fiscal policy improved economic growth or reduced it. So instead of using or how has fiscal policy helped Nigeria's economy or not, so what other measure could you use for Nigeria's economy? So you could talk about investments, right? So if a country's investment is increasing, it is showing that the economy is growing and something like that. Alright, so I would say investments, I could say I'm denoting Nigeria's economy with investment. So investment being a function of government spending, G, and taxes, where G is government spending and T is represents taxes. So I want to check the impact of government spending and taxes on the investments in Nigeria. So how do these things affect Nigeria's investment? So this is also talking about, we are still within the scope of the topic, right? So, and that's that about that. So here, the theories that you're going to be reviewing would be investment theories, or theories of investment, not theories of fiscal policy, because what you're looking at is what is determining investment, not what is determining fiscal policy. Now, what were the theories that the researcher in this particular work, what were the theories that this person reviewed? Okay, that particular researcher reviewed 5 theories. Now, the saver-spenders theory of fiscal policy, Adolf Wagner's theory of government expenditure, theory of taxation, benefit theory of taxation, diffusion theory of taxation. Now, these 5 theories, they were wonderfully voluminous because they were like it was a lot was written on them, but they were kind of relevant to the subject matter in a beautiful way. No, I call them beautifully relevant. They were not useful. I'm going to tell you why. Now, for the saver spenders theory of fiscal policy, this is talking about how fiscal policy is a function of savings and spendings. All right, and the person's work is talking about how fiscal policy is affecting Nigeria's economy. But what is there is how saving and spending is affecting fiscal policy. The person is already deviating. It's already making the dependent variable the independent variable. So which makes this theory useless. Now, number 2, Adolf Wagner's theory of government expenditure. Now, government expenditure is an aspect of fiscal policy. So I could as well say this is Adolf Wagner's theory of fiscal policy. So this is also talking about how fiscal policy is determined by something. Okay, now what about this? The theory of taxation. Now, taxation is an aspect of fiscal policy. So here, the theory of taxation, how it is a function of something. So this is talking about how tax is derived. And if you look at it, some of the things that the person talked about here is, I think, ability to pay, all of those things that we learned under taxes in our secondary school days and something like that. So here, how tax is a function of people's ability to pay. So it's looking at, okay, how much tax should you charge people? So how do we arrive at the amount of tax that you charge each person? So this is not talking about economic growth. It's not, the same thing. Now here is just an extension of number 3, benefit theory of taxation, which is saying that charge people and the taxes that should be imposed on people should be based on the benefits that they are receiving from being taxed, or something like that. So this is also talking about fiscal policy being, derived or obtained or being determined by the benefit that people enjoy from, paying taxes. So it is not still talking about here. Okay, then the next one, diffusion theory of taxation. Let people pay taxes based on the level of diffusion of whatever that has happened in the economy. So in all of these 5 theories now, there is none of them that is relevant to this particular one. So I guess the person saw fiscal policy in his or her topic, and anything fiscal policy goes, right, under the review theories. So if you accept this, okay, if you write this and you want to continue, you would immediately have problems in your chapter 4, because fiscal policy in all of these things that have been written here happen to be the dependent variable. So how would you now tweak that, okay, in chapter 4 when you start to develop your models, and your models are supposed to have economic growth as the dependent variable being a function of fiscal policy? Okay, so when you are looking for theories to review, you have to understand something, that your theories have to be relevant. They have to be in line with your subject matter. Don't just pick something because here now, don't just pick anything fiscal policy because there's fiscal policy in your topic. It doesn't work that way. You understand? And these are reasons why supervisors reject people's work. But the problem there is you don't even know why they are rejecting your work, and I'm telling you already now. Okay, if your work should get rejected based on something like this, I've explained the reason. It is not in line with your topic. If you want to talk about determinants of fiscal policy, then change your topic. Your topic is going to be at the determinants of fiscal policy in the Nigerian economy. Finish. And all of these theories are going to be useful. But since that is not what you're talking about, then all of these theories, no matter how many pages you've written, red pen, and that used to pain, you can start crying. Okay, and that's that about that. Now, what theory should this person have reviewed? What theory should this person have reviewed? Now, you have different growth theories. You have Harold Dommer growth theory. You have the solo growth theory or the solo growth model. You have endogenous growth theory. Okay. Now, and there is this one that we use in macroeconomics. I think. Let me tell you the name very well. The determination of equilibrium output model. It's actually a model. Here you have y equals AE. Being a function of consumption, investments, government spending, and net exports. C plus I plus G plus NX. Okay. Now, in fact, you can use that particular model in your work continuously. Why? Now, why? I said here, the third device should have reviewed. You have Harrod-Domar growth theory. You have solo growth theory. Okay, Domar growth theory, solo growth theory. You have endogenous. There's exogenous growth theory as well. I think there's endogenous growth theory. Then you have these determinants. Let me just say determinants of equilibrium EQ, output theory / model. Sometimes I just output model because what I really need is not like a theory per se, but it's something I really want to use in my chapter 4 in the building of my model. That's what I want to use, right? But it cannot be theory per se. I don't know if that is right, but based on my own level of understanding currently, okay, that's what I used to do sometimes or once in a while. Now these are growth theories. Okay, these are the kind of theories that this person should have reviewed, and if the person really reviewed journals that are related to this topic, because some of the journals might be the effect of fiscal policy on Ghana's economy, on South Africa's economy, on Russia's economy. Have I even said anything on Russia, right? I don't think so. But you can see on a lot of Asian countries, Chinese economy, Taiwan's economy, you could have something like that. Okay, now in the theory that these people use for their, like, while reading the journals, you would have seen like growth theories. They may not be this type, right? They may not have this one that I've listed, but they are meant to be, growth theories. Except their topic is this way, but what they are really focusing on as their research objective is not on economic growth, right? But this is how it is, supposed to be. Now, and that takes us to, now you've chosen your theory. Okay, you are trying to look at the economic growth theory that you should review. Now, remember I said between 3 to 5, maybe 4 to 5. As for me, like 4 to 5 is okay. Now, what are the things that you should watch out for? Number one, when you are talking about theory, you should include origin or originator of the theory, like solo growth model now or solo growth theory. That's like wait, I remember the name, like that's, I just forgot again. Okay, but it's something solo, right? I've forgotten the name really. You have Harrod-Domar. I think this by two people, right? The first person's surname is Harrod, something like that. Second person's surname is Domar. So you bring the two together, that was Harrod-Domar. So just research, go online. Who were the people that invented or developed this theory, right? So we can talk about them. Now, not talk about the people, just so this theory was developed in 1930 by this finish. Then you have to talk about the assumptions, or you should talk about the assumptions of that theory, which is actually something that you may not find in the journals that's mentioned and made use of these theories. Now, after talking about the assumptions, talk about the strengths and weaknesses. Every theory has its own strengths, every theory has its own weakness. So you research, talk about strengths and weaknesses, you are reviewing them, right? Then you also talk about studies that use the theories. Okay, this theory was developed by this and this and this and this and this. It was made used in the studies of or maybe Occur 2012, Principal 2015, the Meiji 2018 use this theory in their studies of, you can mention the topic and whatever. So that's not a problem. So just because you are reviewing, you are trying to make us know that you saw this theory in some of the journals or in some of the studies that are related to your subject matter. So it is important that you include, you cite some of those journals to let us understand that, okay, really you saw these stuff from one or two journals. So that's all about that. Then one more thing that you should note is what I want to say. How about I'm not forgetting? Alright, you are eventually going to be using one of these theories for the rest of your work. Okay, so that's to tell you that you should review a theory that is going to encapsulate that's going to bring in your independent variable, okay, from your topic. And your independent variable is what? Inflation. So you should be able to review a theory that relates economic growth directly with inflation. Alright, so and sometimes you may not have theories that bring in your dependent variable, that relates your independent variable to your independent variable directly. You may not have, okay, but what should you do? Now there are going to be theories that you can tweak in your independent variables into. If you go through your research in the journals, you will see examples where people did that. Okay, this theory is about this, but then we are introducing this additional variable into this model. Okay, based on this reason, blah blah blah. You defend it. Talk about that one in chapter 4. Okay, you defend it and on you go, right? So that's that about that. So here I'm gonna choose endogenous growth theory. So if I'm talking about effects of not this, going back to the effects of inflation on economic growth, can pick endogenous growth theory, because endogenous growth theory is telling us, or is stating that the growth that occurs in an economy is dependent on factors within the economy. And since inflation is a factor within a country's economy, okay, I'm going to bring in inflation because of that. Okay, and if I now have other studies that have done something like that, I can then include it. That's not here. I'm talking about chapter 4. I can then include it that, okay, so studies did the same thing when they carried out their research. So that will give me a backing, legitimate backing for what I just did. Alright, normally endogenous growth theory is saying that economies grow based on factors like investments in innovation, based on investments in human capital and other important factors within a country's economy, right? So trying to look at, okay, how does inflation also impact on Nigeria's economic growth? And if I have studies that have done that, so I could include that, okay, 2012, Principal 2015, the Meiji 2018 did the same thing, alright, in their studies, okay, where they were looking for, or where they were checking out the impact of inflation on the economic growth of Nigeria, maybe Ghana, whatever. Just talk about that. That's not here, but in chapter 4, right? But I'm just telling you now, okay, telling you ahead. So before we go, there's one thing I want us to know. So how do you get the theories that different journals use? Just go to the abstract section, okay, at the beginning of the journal. So when you read through the abstract, I've told you before some of the things that you're going to find there. So if there was a theory that was made use of in that particular research, it's going to be summarized. It's going to be stated in the abstract section. And then if you want more information on that theory based on that journal, just scroll down. When you scroll down through the pages of the journal, you are going to see the section for theory, okay, and the theory is going to be discussed somehow there, okay, and whatever information that you need based on that theory, or whatever information you can find in that journal on that theory, whatever it is you want to do with the information, do with it. Okay, so I think let me check. Maybe there's something I've not mentioned. Okay, I have explained about, okay, for example here now, economic growth being a function of inflation. I've mentioned the kind of growth theories that, or I've told you I should review growth theories in line with the journals that you've read. Okay, so don't include theories like monetary, where is it? Okay, there's a place I wrote that. Okay, don't include theories like monetary theory of inflation. Monetary theory of inflation. That's talking about how inflation is being determined. But here, looking at how economic growth is being determined. So don't use that. Yeah, don't talk about market power theory of inflation. You're still looking at determinants of inflation. So market power theory of inflation, no, that's not what you need. Okay, so those are examples of two inflation theories that are not supposed to be in this particular book based on your topic. And sometimes when you go through some journals, you may not be able to find theories. You should find theories ordinarily, but there are times that you may not be able to find so many theories. Okay, so let's say after everything you're only able to find maybe three theories. You write them and then you go online to look for a fourth theory, or maybe a fourth and a fifth theory, and then discuss them in your research. That's for now based on my present level of understanding. So that's what I can say regarding that, because you might as well go through your journals and you may not see so many theories that you can take from, or maybe the theories you found are not really the theories you want to use, but you still review them nonetheless, and the theory that you really want to use, that you're interested in, you can then browse for that and include that in your project, okay, in your chapter 3. So when you get to chapter 4, you talk about, okay, I want to use this particular theory and what have you. So that's that about that. In our next class, we'll be talking about empirical review, methodological review, and literature table. It's not meant to be a long class, but we never can tell. It depends on how the spirit leads us. So see you there. Your assignment is going to come after that video. Yeah, thank you. Bye.